How much are closing costs in Toronto? Deep dive for first-time buyers. You've done everything right. You save your down payment, you've got pre-approved, and you're ready to buy your first home in Toronto. And then someone hits you with this phrase, closing costs. You're thinking, wait, what now? I thought we were good to go. Don't worry, I've got you. In this video, I'm going to break down what closing costs are, how much you actually need to save, who pays for what, whether they can be gifted or borrowed, and how to make sure you're fully prepared with no last-minute surprises. Let's start with the basics. Closing costs are one-time fees you pay upfront when you buy a home. They're separate from your down payment and not part of your mortgage. Here's what they often include. The legal fees for your real estate lawyer, land transfer tax, and in Toronto, you pay twice, municipal and provincial. You also pay for title insurance. Sometimes the lawyer bundles it with his price, home inspection, and sometimes an appraisal, depending on how much is your down payment. Adjustment for property tax or utilities already paid by the seller. And if it's a new build, GST or HST might apply, especially if you are buying a rental for your first home. You'll hear this number a lot. Plan for 1.5 to 7% of the purchase price just for closing costs, depending on the home that you're purchasing. For a $700,000 home, that could mean between $10,000 and nearly $50,000 depending on the home. If you're paying a minimum down payment, which is below the 20% purchase price, then you are also paying for a PST or 8% of the total CMHC or mortgage default insurance cost. And that could add up. Who pays for closing costs? Unlike our US counterpart, buyers pay for their closing costs in Canada and in Toronto. Here's the breakdown. As the buyer, you're responsible for nearly all the closing costs, legal, title, land transfer tax, and so on. The seller, on the other hand, pays for real estate commission, so you don't have to worry about that fee. Here's something unique to Toronto. You pay 2 land transfer tax, one from the province and one from the city. But if you're a first-time buyer, there are also rebates that can save you thousands. I help my clients apply for those, and we'll talk more about that later in the video. So how much do you really need for a closing cost? Let's say you're buying a $700,000 home, a resale home in the GTA. Here's a rough estimate. Land transfer tax, approximately $10,000 before rebate. Legal fees and disbursement, around $1,500 to $2,000. Title insurance, approximately $400. Home inspection, $500. Adjustment, it can be between $500 and $1,500. And depending if you're only paying for property tax, utilities, and also condo fees. There is, as what I said earlier, there is a CMHC insurance tax if it's applicable or if you're paying at less than 20% of a down payment. So that's an HST on top of the CMHC. There's an appraisal fee, probably about $300 if your down payment is 20% or more. So it's the other way around with regards to the appraisal fee. If your down payment is below 20%, the CMHC will cover for appraisal. If your down payment is 20% or more, you are covering it yourself. So, this little $300, $500 here and there adds up quickly. So make sure you're prepared. So again, that's 1.5% to 7% range. The type of home, location, and whether it's new or resale all affect that number. Can you borrow closing costs? Short answer, no, you cannot borrow them. Most lenders, and especially CMHC-insured mortgages, do not allow you to borrow money to pay for closing costs. This means the money has to come from your own savings. Depending on the lender, a non-repayable gift from a relative with proper documentation. You cannot take out a loan or line of credit to cover your closing costs. Not if you want your mortgage approved. So if you are hoping to slide this part through later, it's time to plan for it now. One of the most common mistakes that a home buyer does is not planning for closing costs. They have all their down payments ready, but when it's time for them to buy the house, they cannot produce the closing cost, which is paid upfront before you take your keys. So without the closing costs, you cannot have your dream home. So plan for it accordingly. Now there's a question. Can your closing costs be gifted? The short answer is no. While down payment can be gifted, closing costs must come from your own sources. Now, one of the common mistakes that buyers make when they're buying a home. Let's talk about the top 5 mistakes I see all the time. Number 1, only budgeting for down payment and then scrambling when closing costs comes due. Remember, you cannot have your home without paying for the closing costs. Number 2, trying to borrow money for closing costs. It usually won't be allowed and it could kill your mortgage. Number 3, not accounting for land transfer tax. It's a huge chunk, especially in Toronto, because you have double, even after rebates. Thinking new builds are easier? Many come with HST or GST and builder fees. That's extra money you need upfront, especially if this is a rental that you are buying for your first home. Getting gift money too late if it doesn't show in your account in time or lacks a proper letter, your lender could say no. Now, there are CMHC and lender rules you need to know. Here's what CMHC and most lenders expect. Your down payment must be from your own funds or a gift. No loans, no borrowed cash. Number 2, you must also prove you can cover closing costs. Again, from your own money and not as a loan. CMHC specifically says you need to plan for 1.5% to 4% of the home price as closing costs. From my experience, you need 7% for a new home. If you're using a mortgage with less than 20% down, your mortgage will be insured by CMHC or another provider. And you can't borrow closing costs or your down payment. Your lender will want proof of your down payment, proof of your closing costs, gift letter if using family money. And it's only from immediate family. Who are they? Your dad, your mom, your stepdad, your siblings, your grandparents, and that's your immediate family. If they are giving you gift, they need to have proper documentation. And if this gift is coming from international sources, this has to be properly documented and it has to be there at least 90 days. So you need to have all the proper paper trails before it can be accepted as a down payment. But you cannot use this for closing costs. There's verification of account balances before closing. Now, how to prepare for your home the right way. Here's how to stay safe and ready. Number 1, plan early. Budget 3 to 4% extra on top of your down payment to be safe. 2, ask your lawyer for a breakdown of legal and land transfer fees. Number 3, use a calculator. Toronto and Ontario both have land transfer tax calculators online. I will link the calculator down below. If you're using gift money, start the process early. Get the letter and transfer the funds in advance. Don't wait for last minute. Keep a buffer. Things can pop up last minute, like adjustments or fees you did not expect. I help my clients map out all this in their home search phase before they ever make an offer. Let's recap. Closing costs are real, mandatory, and upfront. You'll need 1.5 to 7% of the purchase price. You cannot borrow them. But with the right paperwork, you can have gifted down payments. If you're a first-time home buyer, ask about rebates, especially land transfer tax. Plan early and you'll avoid stress, delays, or even losing your home. Now that you're clear on closing costs, there are some more traps first-time buyers fall into all the time, and it's about the down payment. This down payment mistake when buying first time. Click to watch to avoid this down payment mistake when buying your first home in Toronto. I'll walk you through the number one reason buyer gets rejected and how to make sure it doesn't happen to you.